Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving deep into the life of one of boxing's greatest legends, Joe Louis. Known as the Brown Bomber, Louis made history in the boxing world with his incredible talent and fierce determination. But who was Joe Louis beyond the ring? In this video, we'll explore his family life, including his wife and children, discuss his upbringing and the influence of his parents, take a look at his lifestyle, and even delve into his net worth. So, stick around as we uncover the multifaceted life of Joe Louis. Joe Louis was an American professional boxer who competed from 1934 to 1951. Nicknamed the Brown Bomber, Louis is widely regarded as one of the greatest and most influential boxers of all time. He reigned as the world heavyweight champion from 1937 until his temporary retirement in 1949. Born May 13, 1914, Chambers County, Alabama, United States. Died April 12, 1981, age 66 years, Desert Springs Hospital Medical Center, Las Vegas, Nevada, United States. Martial art, boxing. Weight, 97 kilograms. Spouse, Martha Jefferson, M. 1959 to 1981, see more. Division, heavyweight. Total fights, 69. Joe Louis net worth 640 crores USD. Personal life. I did the best I could with what I had. Joe Louis, cited by Philip Roth. Louis had two children by wife Marva Trotter, daughter Jacqueline in 1943 and son Joseph Louis Barrow Jr. in 1947. They divorced in March 1945 only to remarry a year later, but were again divorced in February 1949. Marva moved on to an acting and modeling career. On Christmas Day 1955, Louis married Rose Morgan, a successful Harlem businesswoman. Their marriage was annulled in 1958. Louis's final marriage, to Martha Jefferson, a lawyer from Los Angeles, on St. Patrick's Day 1959, lasted until his death. They had 4 children, another son named Joseph Louis Barrow Jr., John Louis Barrow, Joyce Louis Barrow, and Janet Louis Barrow. The younger Joe Louis Barrow Jr. lives in New York City and is involved in boxing. Though married 4 times, Louis discreetly enjoyed the company of other women like Lena Horne and Edna Mae Harris. Joe and Marva Louis endorsed and campaigned for liberal, anti-segregation Republican candidate Wendell Willkie in the 1940 United States presidential election. Louis said, "This country has been good to me. It gave me everything I have. I have never come out for any candidate before, but I think Wendell L. Willkie will give us a square deal. So I am for Willkie because I think he will help my people, and I figure my people should be for him, too." Drugs took a toll on Louis in his later years. In 1969, he was hospitalized after collapsing on a New York City street. While the incident was at first credited to physical breakdown, underlying problems would soon surface. In 1970, he spent 5 months at the Colorado Psychiatric Hospital and the Veterans Administration Hospital in Denver, hospitalized by his wife, Martha, and his son, Joe Louis Barrow Jr., for paranoia. In a 1971 book, Brown Bomber, by Barney Nagler, Louis disclosed the truth about these incidents, stating that his collapse in 1969 had been caused by cocaine, and that his subsequent hospitalization had been prompted by his fear of a plot to destroy him. Strokes and heart ailments caused Louis's condition to deteriorate further later in the decade. He had surgery to correct an aortic aneurysm in 1977 and thereafter used a POV/scooter for a mobility aid. Death. Louis died of cardiac arrest in Desert Springs Hospital near Las Vegas on April 12, 1981, just hours after his last public appearance viewing the Larry Holmes, Trevor Berbick heavyweight championship fight. President Ronald Reagan waived the eligibility rules for burial at Arlington National Cemetery, and Louis was buried there with full military honors on April 21, 1981. His funeral was paid for in part by former competitor and friend, Max Schmeling, who also acted as a pallbearer. Early life. Born on May 13, 1914, in rural Chambers County, Alabama, in a ramshackle dwelling on Bell Chapel Road, located about 1 mile, 2 kilometers, off State Route 50 and roughly 6 miles, 10 kilometers, from Lafayette, Louis was the 7th of 8 children of Monroe Barrow and Lily Reese Barrow. He weighed 11 pounds, 5 kilograms, at birth. Both of his parents were children of former slaves, alternating between sharecropping and rental farming. Lewis suffered from a speech impediment and spoke very little until about the age of 6. Monroe Barrow was committed to a mental institution in 1916 and, as a result, Joe knew very little of his biological father. Around 1920, Lewis's mother married Pat Brooks, a local construction contractor, having received word that Monroe Barrow had died while institutionalized. In reality, Monroe Barrow lived until 1938, unaware of his son's fame. In 1926, shaken by a gang of white men in the Ku Klux Klan, Lewis's family moved to Detroit, Michigan, forming part of the post-World War I Great Migration. Joe's brother worked for Ford Motor Company, where Joe would himself work for a time at the River Rouge plant, and the family settled into a home at 2700 Catherine, now Madison, Street in Detroit's Black Bottom neighborhood. Lewis attended Bronson Vocational School for a time to learn cabinet making. Amateur career. The Great Depression severely affected the Barrow family, but Joe still made time to work out at a local youth recreation center at 637 Brewster Street in Detroit. His mother attempted to get him interested in playing the violin. He is rumored to have tried to hide his pugilistic ambitions from his mother by carrying his boxing gloves inside his violin case. Lewis made his debut in early 1932 at the age of 17. Legend has it that before the fight, the barely literate Lewis wrote his name so large that there was no room for his last name, and thus became known as Joe Louis for the remainder of his boxing career. More likely, Lewis simply omitted his last name to keep his boxing a secret from his mother. After this debut, a loss to future Olympian Johnny Myler, Lewis compiled numerous amateur victories, eventually winning the club championship of his Brewster Street Recreation Center, the home of many aspiring Golden Gloves fighters. In 1933, Lewis won the Detroit Area Golden Gloves Novice Division Championship against Joe Biskey for the light heavyweight classification. He later lost in the Chicago Golden Gloves Tournament of Champions. The next year, competing in the Golden Gloves Open Division, he won the light heavyweight classification, this time also winning the Chicago Tournament of Champions against Joe Bauer. However, a hand injury forced Lewis to miss the New York/Chicago Champions Crosstown bout for the Ultimate Golden Gloves Championship. In April 1934, he followed up his Chicago performance by winning the light heavyweight United States Amateur Champion National AAU Tournament in St. Louis, Missouri. By the end of his amateur career, Lewis's record was 50-4, with 43 knockouts. Professional career. Joe Louis had only 3 losses in his 69 professional fights. He tallied 52 knockouts and held the championship from 1937 to 1949, the longest span of any heavyweight titleholder. After returning from retirement, Lewis failed to regain the championship in 1950, and his career ended after he was knocked out by Rocky Marciano in 1951.